Hello champions, welcome to the next lecture on the measure of dispersion. Today I will explain you one of the simplest concept named as the range. Myself Dr. Harish Garg, you can follow and subscribe my YouTube channel. So as we have discussed in our previous lecture, what is the idea behind the measure of dispersions, which are classified into the two categories, absolute measures and the relative measure. The absolute measure is distinguished into the 5 different types, while the relative measures are always used when you are computing the data set with the different units. For more details about the lecture of the measure of dispersions, watch my playlist probability and statistics, and you can see the mean, median, mode, combined mean, and the lecture of the measure of dispersions. Always remember, the relative measure you can define corresponding to the range we call as the coefficient of the range. Corresponding to the quartile deviations we call as the coefficient of the quartile divisions. Corresponding to the variance, standard deviations, and we can define the relative measure. Today I will explain you one of the first method called as the range of the measure of dispersions. First of all, the most important point is whenever you are talking about the measure of center tendencies such as the mean, median, mode is not sufficient enough only to describe the informations. For that case, we always need the idea of the dispersions, and dispersion is always used to measure how the data is scattered. Fine. Or you can see in order to measure the spread, how the data is spreading around the central value. Fine. And whenever you have a small dispersions, it is a more consistent and more stability, while the large dispersion is implies more variability and large number of uncertainty. Always remember, our target is to make as a less dispersion. Fine. So you can always prefer the data set which has a less dispersion. Now the first one we have covered about the range. It's a very simple concept. Within the 2 or 3 minutes you can easily understand that. It is one of the simplest measure of the dispersions. If I consider the data set x1, x2, x3 up to the xn, find the highest element, fine, or find the smallest element. So assume that the largest element among x1, x2, x3 is say x of I, and the smallest, or instead of the xi, I call as the largest element is L, while the smallest element is my S. Then the range is defined as the difference between the highest elements and the lowest element. That means you can define the range is L minus S, where L is called as the largest items and S is the smallest items among the given set of the observations. In order to define the coefficient of the range, first of all, whenever you have to define the coefficient of the range, it must be dimensionless. Fine. And that's the beauty of the coefficient of the measures. So first of all, whenever, for example, if you have the x1, x2, xn, they all are in terms of the kgs. Fine. Or all are in terms of the centimeter. And then whenever you calculate the range, the answer is always in the terms of the kg or in the centimeter. That means that measure is called as absolute measure. Absolute measure has always the units, while the relative measure is my always a dimensionless quantity. Fine. So now we have seen the range has a unit. In order to convert into the dimensionless quantity, we can find the coefficient of the range. And the coefficient of the range is similar to the L minus S divided by L plus S. Fine. And that is the, because it's a dimensionless quantity, therefore we call as the relative measure of the range. Always remember students, because in order to measure the range, we always need the largest element and the smallest element. So that's why the range is one of the simplest, common and easy to understand measure of dispersions. What are the uses of the range? It's a widely used It is used in the industry to study the variational in the quality of the items. It is used in the meteorologic department to know what is the actual temperature and the weather forecast. And in the stock market, we can always say what is the lowest and the highest hit of the particular share in a day or in the last 52 weeks year. For example, if I ask you calculate the range of the example number 1 and example number 2. Clearly say in the example number 2, this is my frequency distribution. While in the example number 1, it is free from the frequency distribution. So can you calculate the largest element among the given observations? The largest element is my 11. What is the smallest element is 8. Fine. Therefore, you can calculate the range is L minus S. 11 minus 8 is 3 is the right answer of the problem. Similarly, if you look about the second example, can you calculate the largest elements? Always remember, whenever you want to calculate the range is always measuring of the class interval. So the largest element is 75. And what is the smallest element is 60. Therefore, your range will be 1, 5, 15 is the right answer. Make sure students, whenever you want to calculate the range, they are independent of the frequency. Fine. They are independent of the frequency. While whenever you calculate the mean, fine, we always use as a frequency as well, fx divided by f. But whenever you calculate the range, it is free from the frequency. But यहाँ पे एक important point को note करिए. Fine. Whenever you want to calculate the L and the S, the class interval must be continuous. Fine. The frequency distribution must be continuous. Continuous means the ending limit and the starting limit of the next interval must be same. 66 and the 66. अगर ये same नहीं होगा तो what we can do, I will explain you with the next example. So can you calculate the range and the coefficient of the range? So first of all, you can see what is the largest element. You can see the largest element is 790. What is the smallest element? Smallest element is 100. Fine. So can you calculate the range? So range will be L minus S. So the answer will be 690 is my range. Fine. 790 minus 100. 690 is my, so it is measured in terms of the rupees. So that is my rupees. If it is a dollar, then it's a dollar. If it is a euro, then it's a euro. And similarly, you can find this value here. It's a 790 minus 100 divided by 790 plus 100. If you calculate them, it's a 690 divided by 890. If you divide them, it's a 0.78 is the right answer. And clearly say the 0.78 is my dimensionless quantity. Fine. And whenever the quantity is dimensionless, that quantity you can use for comparison the two different data set, because we can only compare the two different data set, either they have the same dimensions, fine, or they are my independent of the dimensions. Look at this case, find the range and the coefficients. So first of all, it is not a continuous. Fine, because the lower limit and the upper limit of the previous are not same. Clearly say it's my 21 and it's a 20. They are not same. So कितना difference है इसके बीच में? 21 minus 20, that is my 1. So you can half of them. Fine. I can subtract 0.5 on the left hand side and plus 0.5 on the right hand side. So I can add them. बच्चों याद रखना है इन दोनों का गैप होना चाहिए. इन दोनों का गैप कितना है? 1 का. तो 1 का हाफ करना है. अगर यहाँ पे लिमिट 22 होती है, यहाँ 27 होती है एंड सो ऑन, तो ये कितना गैप हो गया? 2 का. 2 का हाफ कितना हुआ? 1. Then subtract -1 plus 1 on the interval size. Anyhow, now you can see it is my continuous and our target is to calculate the range, and range is independent of the frequency. So can you calculate the lower limit? Lower limit is my largest limit. Largest value is my 55.5 and smallest limit is my 15.5. So can you calculate the range? the range will be L minus S. 40 is my range. Fine. लेकिन अगर आप यहां से निकालते without converting into this is largest limit and this is smallest limit, clearly say this is not equal to, तो आपका गलत हो जाता. And how you can find the its coefficient? That will be L minus S over L plus S. I can substitute the value of the L and S. You can get the answer is 40 divided by 71 is the right answer. Okay, calculate the range and the coefficients. Clearly say they are my continuous. Yes. So what is the lower limit? Or what is the smallest value? 10. Largest value is 100. So what is my range? Range is my 90 and the coefficient of the range will be 90 divided by 110 is the right answer of the problem. Okay, what are the merits and the demerits of the range? So first of all, it is easy to understand. Fine. It is easy to fine. It is easy to predict the forecast minimum and the maximum. Fine. They are the simple merits. But what are the demerits? Demerits are it is much affected by the extreme value. What is the meaning of the extreme value? If you have say 1, 4, 7, 9. So what is the range? Range will be 9 minus 1 is 8. But if I change only the one information, say 9 to be 900, then what is the range? Range will be 899. So clearly say by changing only one number to be very high, fine, the range is drastically changed. So that means it is much affected by the extreme values. It is based only for the two extreme observation. Like if I say second number is instead of the 7, it is my 8. Instead of the 4, it's a 5. They are independent of the middle numbers. They are only dependent on the first and the last information. It can't be calculated for the open and the close intervals. Fine. अगर आपके पास ये कहा दिया जाए 10 to 20, 20 to 30 and greater than 30. Can you calculate the range? You will get the smallest element is 10. But what is the largest element? Greater than 30. It is not given as 30 to 40. It can be 30 to 40. It can be 30 to 70. It can be 30 to 100. So you are unable to compute as the open largest value. That means they are not able to compute as the open end class interval. It is not suitable for the mathematical treatments because they are not dependent on the all the informations. Also you can see it is independent of the frequency. It is independent of the counting. Counting means frequency. Fine. As we can see, it has no significance whatsoever. Is a 3, 5, 4 and so on. So these are the few demerits. So I will give you the 5 exercises as an example. Let me know your answers in the comment box. First 3 questions here and 2 more questions. तो आप अपना आंसर इस तरह से आंसर पुट करिए. 1 का आंसर, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We will see the next lecture on the second measure of the dispersion named as the quartiles very soon. Till then, you can share this video with your friends, like and comment on the videos. Best of luck, students. Happy learning.